The Beverly Hills Hotel's crystal ballroom gleamed under the cascade of chandeliers, each crystal catching the light like captured stars. The annual Excellence in Innovation Awards had transformed the opulent space into a temple of success, where America's most influential entrepreneurs, tech moguls, and industry leaders gathered to celebrate achievement. The air buzzed with the electric energy of ambition, punctuated by the gentle clink of champagne glasses and the rustle of designer evening wear. Marcus Whitfield adjusted his Italian silk tie for the third time in 10 minutes, his reflection in the ballroom's mirrored walls showing a man who belonged in this world, or at least desperately wanted to. At 34, he had clawed his way up from a middle-class background in suburban Detroit to become the vice president of corporate relations at Zenith Technologies, a mid-tier software company. Tonight represented everything he had worked for: recognition, networking opportunities, and most importantly, the chance to rub shoulders with the elite who could catapult his career to the next level. The California evening air drifted through the partially opened French doors, carrying the scent of jasmine from the hotel's manicured gardens. Marcus surveyed the crowd with calculating eyes, mentally categorizing each person by their potential value to his ambitions. CEOs clustered near the bar, their conversations worth millions. Venture capitalists moved like sharks through the crowd, always hunting for the next big opportunity. This was his element, or so he told himself. "Marcus, there you are." The voice belonged to Jennifer Chen, his colleague from Zenith Technologies. She approached in an elegant black dress, her smile warm but her eyes carrying a hint of concern. "I've been looking for you. The ceremony's about to start." "Perfect timing," Marcus replied, straightening his shoulders. "I want to make sure I'm positioned where the key players can see me during the networking hour afterward. Did you see the guest list? Harrison Mitchell from Apex Ventures is here, and rumor has it that Elena Rodriguez from Quantum Industries is looking for new partners." Jennifer nodded, though something in her expression suggested reservation. "Just remember, Marcus, these events are about celebrating genuine achievement. It's not just about who you know." Marcus waved dismissively. "Jennifer, you're too idealistic. In this business, it's always about connections. Merit only gets you so far. Visibility and networking close the deals." As they found their seats at a round table draped in ivory linen, Marcus noticed the subtle hierarchy even in the seating arrangement. The front tables closest to the stage hosted the evening's most distinguished guests. He had managed to secure seats in the third row, respectable but not quite where he longed to be. The lights dimmed, and a spotlight illuminated the stage where Rebecca Torres, the event coordinator, stepped up to the podium. Her voice carried easily through the professionally calibrated sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 15th Annual Excellence in Innovation Awards. Tonight, we celebrate those who have transformed industries, created opportunities, and changed lives through their dedication and vision." Marcus half listened to the opening remarks, his attention drifting as he studied the room's occupants. He mentally rehearsed the conversations he planned to initiate, the business cards he would exchange, the impressions he hoped to make. Success at events like this wasn't about the awards themselves. It was about positioning yourself for future opportunities. "Our first presenter this evening," Rebecca continued, "needs no introduction. Please welcome the CEO of Meridian Global, David Ashworth." Applause filled the ballroom as Ashworth, a silver-haired man in his 60s, took the stage with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to command. As he began announcing the first category winner, Marcus's attention was drawn to movement near the service entrance. A maintenance worker had entered quietly, pushing a small cart with cleaning supplies. The man appeared to be in his 50s, wearing a simple navy uniform with the hotel's logo embroidered on the chest. His movements were efficient and unobtrusive as he began emptying trash bins along the room's perimeter, clearly trying to work around the ceremony without causing disruption. Marcus felt a spike of irritation. The hotel's timing was unprofessional. Couldn't they wait until after the ceremony to handle housekeeping? The presence of service staff during such an elegant event struck him as inappropriate, a reminder of the working-class world he had fought so hard to leave behind. The maintenance worker continued his quiet work, occasionally pausing to ensure he wasn't blocking anyone's view of the stage. His demeanor was respectful and professional, but to Marcus he represented everything wrong with the evening's execution. This was supposed to be exclusive, elite, not a place where cleaning staff wandered freely among the guests. "The Innovation in Sustainable Technology Award," Ashworth announced from the stage, "goes to Dr. Sarah Martinez from Eco Solutions International." As polite applause filled the room, Marcus leaned toward Jennifer. "Unbelievable," he whispered, nodding toward the maintenance worker. "Can you believe they're allowing cleaning staff to wander around during the ceremony? This is supposed to be a prestigious event." Jennifer followed his gaze and shrugged. "He's just doing his job, Marcus. He's being very discreet." "Discreet?" Marcus's voice carried more than he intended, causing a few nearby guests to glance in their direction. This is exactly the kind of unprofessional behavior that undermines the entire atmosphere. Look around. We're surrounded by industry leaders, and they have some janitor pushing a cart around like we're at a shopping mall food court. The maintenance worker, seemingly oblivious to Marcus's commentary, continued his work with quiet dignity. There was something in his bearing that suggested competence and self-assurance, but Marcus saw only an unwelcome intrusion on his carefully orchestrated evening. As the ceremony progressed through various award categories, Marcus found himself increasingly fixated on the worker's presence. Each time the man appeared in his peripheral vision, Marcus felt his irritation grow. This was his night to shine, to network with the elite, to position himself for the next phase of his career advancement. The presence of working-class service staff felt like an unwelcome reminder of ordinariness in what should have been an extraordinary evening. The maintenance worker moved with practiced efficiency, his work methodical and thorough. He exchanged quiet nods with hotel staff members, his interactions professional and courteous. But Marcus saw none of this, only a disruption to the exclusive atmosphere he had worked so hard to access. As the first chapter of this evening drew to a close, Marcus remained focused on his ambitions, unaware that his judgments and assumptions would soon collide with a reality that would challenge everything he believed about success, worth, and the true meaning of achievement. The stage lights continued to shine, the awards continued to be presented, and the maintenance worker continued his quiet, dignified work, setting the stage for revelations that would transform not just Marcus's evening, but his entire understanding of the world around him. The ceremony continued with increasing grandeur as each award category elevated the evening's prestige. Marcus had positioned himself strategically during a brief intermission, moving closer to the bar area, where he anticipated the most valuable networking opportunities would unfold. The California evening had cooled slightly, and the ballroom's atmosphere thrummed with the energy of achievement and ambition. "Ladies and gentlemen," Rebecca Torres returned to the podium, her voice carrying a new level of reverence. "We now come to tonight's most prestigious honor, the Lifetime Achievement Award for Outstanding Philanthropy and Innovation. This award recognizes an individual whose contributions have not only transformed industries, but have fundamentally changed lives across our nation." Marcus straightened in his chair, his attention finally fully captured. The Lifetime Achievement Award represented the pinnacle of recognition in their industry. The recipient would undoubtedly be someone whose endorsement could launch his career into the stratosphere. He pulled out his phone discreetly, preparing to capture photos and perhaps even approach the winner afterward. The maintenance worker had moved closer to their section now, quietly replacing liner bags in the waste receptacles near the front tables. Marcus noticed him again and felt that familiar surge of irritation. The man's presence seemed even more inappropriate now, during what was clearly the evening's most important moment. "This year's recipient," Rebecca continued, her voice building with emotion, "began his journey in the most humble circumstances. Born to immigrant parents in East Los Angeles, he worked multiple jobs throughout his youth, including night shifts as a janitor, to put himself through community college and eventually UCLA. Marcus found himself leaning forward, despite his frustration with the maintenance worker's continued presence. Success stories from humble beginnings always fascinated him, though he sometimes wondered if they were embellished for dramatic effect. After building his first technology company in a garage, literally, he sold it for $50 million before his 30th birthday. But rather than retiring to a life of luxury, he used that success as a foundation for something much greater. Rebecca paused, allowing the anticipation to build. Over the past 25 years, he has created 17 different companies, generating over 40,000 jobs across America. His foundations have provided scholarships to more than 15,000 students, built 32 community centers in underserved neighborhoods, and revolutionized how we think about corporate social responsibility. The audience was rapt with attention. Marcus could feel the collective respect and admiration filling the room. This was exactly the kind of person he needed to meet, someone whose influence could transform his career trajectory entirely. But perhaps most remarkably, Rebecca's voice softened with genuine admiration, He has never forgotten his roots. Every Friday for the past decade, he has spent his morning working alongside maintenance and service staff at various locations throughout Los Angeles, not as a publicity stunt, but as a personal commitment to staying connected with the working people who built America. Marcus felt Jennifer nudge his arm gently, but he was too focused on the stage to pay attention to her gesture. The maintenance worker had paused in his duties, standing respectfully near the side wall as the ceremony reached its crescendo. His philosophy has always been that true leadership means serving others, not being served by them. He believes that every person, regardless of their job title or social status, deserves dignity, respect, and the opportunity to achieve their dreams. The words resonated through the ballroom with increasing power. Marcus found himself moved by the story, imagining the conversation he might have with such an individual. Here was someone who truly understood both the struggle of rising from nothing and the responsibility that came with success. Tonight, it is my profound honor to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to a man who embodies the very best of American entrepreneurship and human compassion. Rebecca paused, her smile broadening as she looked toward the audience. The maintenance worker began walking toward the stage, and Marcus assumed he was finally leaving to allow the ceremony to proceed without distraction. Mr. Robert Chen, founder and chairman of Chen Enterprises, and one of America's most respected philanthropists and business leaders. The applause began immediately, thunderous and sustained. But Marcus sat frozen in his chair, his brain struggling to process what he was witnessing. The maintenance worker, the man he had been criticizing and dismissing all evening, was walking toward the stage, not away from it. The applause continued as Robert Chen stepped up to the podium with the same quiet dignity he had displayed while emptying trash bins. He was still wearing his maintenance uniform, but now Marcus could see what he had missed before: the confidence in his bearing, the intelligence in his eyes, the unmistakable presence of someone accustomed to command. "This can't be right," Marcus whispered to Jennifer, his voice barely audible above the continuing ovation. "There must be some mistake." Jennifer's expression was a mixture of sympathy and disappointment. "Marcus, I tried to tell you earlier. I recognized him when he came in. Robert Chen is famous for working alongside service staff. It's been written about in Fortune, Forbes, the Wall Street Journal." Marcus felt the blood draining from his face. Every dismissive comment, every look of irritation, every whispered criticism flooded back through his memory with devastating clarity. The man he had spent the evening judging and dismissing as inappropriate was the very person he had hoped to impress. Robert Chen reached the podium and waited patiently for the applause to subside. When he spoke, his voice carried the warmth and authenticity that comes from genuine humility, combined with hard-earned wisdom. "Thank you for this incredible honor," he began, his words carrying easily through the ballroom. "But before I continue, I want to acknowledge the hotel's outstanding maintenance and service staff who have worked tirelessly to make this evening possible. Their professionalism and dedication remind us that every job, no matter how visible or invisible, contributes to our shared success." Marcus wanted to disappear. He could feel sweat forming on his forehead, despite the ballroom's perfect climate control. Around him, guests nodded appreciatively at Chen's words, clearly moved by his graciousness and humility. "I accepted this award not for myself, but to represent the millions of Americans who work with dignity in every industry, at every level. Success isn't measured by the clothes we wear or the titles on our business cards. It's measured by how we treat others, especially those we perceive as having less power or status than ourselves." Each word felt like a direct indictment of Marcus's behavior and attitudes. He glanced around the room, wondering if others had witnessed his dismissive comments, if his lack of character had been as visible as he now feared. Robert Chen continued his acceptance speech with grace and wisdom, but Marcus could barely focus on the words. His entire worldview was crashing down around him, replaced by the devastating recognition of his own prejudice and superficiality. The maintenance uniform, he now realized, hadn't been a mistake or poor timing. It had been a deliberate choice by a man secure enough in his accomplishments to value authenticity over appearance. The remainder of Robert Chen's acceptance speech became a blur for Marcus. Each word of wisdom, each gracious acknowledgement of the service staff, each humble reference to his own journey felt like another weight added to the crushing realization of his own behavior. When the thunderous standing ovation finally ended and Chen stepped down from the stage, Marcus remained seated, paralyzed by the magnitude of his misjudgment. The networking hour that followed was everything Marcus had anticipated and everything he now dreaded. The ballroom buzzed with conversations as industry leaders mingled, business cards were exchanged, and deals were conceptualized over champagne and hors d'oeuvres. But Marcus found himself unable to participate in the very activities he had planned for months. "Marcus, are you okay?" Jennifer's voice carried genuine concern as she returned to their table with 2 glasses of wine. "You've been sitting here for 20 minutes without moving?" Marcus accepted the wine with trembling hands. "Jennifer, did you see how I acted tonight? Did you hear what I said about him?" "I heard some of it," she replied carefully, settling into the chair beside him. "But Marcus, he didn't hear you. You were sitting too far away and you kept your voice relatively low." "That's not the point," Marcus said, his voice hollow. "The point is that I spent the entire evening judging someone based on their appearance, on their job, on my own prejudiced assumptions, and it turns out he's one of the most successful and respected people in the country." Across the ballroom, Robert Chen moved through the crowd with the same quiet dignity he had shown while working. Guests approached him constantly, eager for a moment of his attention, but he gave each person his full focus, listening intently to their words, whether they were CEOs or hotel staff members who had paused their duties to offer congratulations. Marcus watched this display of authentic leadership with growing self-awareness. "Look at him," he murmured to Jennifer. "He treats everyone exactly the same. The busboy who just congratulated him got the same attention and respect as David Ashworth from Meridian Global." "That's what real success looks like, Marcus," Jennifer replied gently. "It's not about climbing over other people or dismissing them as beneath you. It's about lifting others up while you rise." The observation stung because it was so accurate. Marcus realized that his entire approach to career advancement had been built on a foundation of arrogance and superficiality. He had spent years cultivating an image, networking with the right people, and dismissing anyone he perceived as unable to help his climb up the corporate ladder. "I need to apologize to him," Marcus said suddenly, starting to rise from his chair. Jennifer gently placed her hand on his arm. "Marcus, think about this carefully. He doesn't know what you said or how you acted. Going over there now, in your current emotional state, might do more harm than good." Marcus sank back into his chair, recognizing the wisdom in her words, but feeling the urgent need to somehow make amends for his behavior. The guilt was consuming him, made worse by the knowledge that his prejudice had been so automatic, so deeply ingrained that he hadn't even questioned it. "How did I become this person?" he asked, more to himself than to Jennifer. "When did I start believing that someone's worth was determined by their job title or their clothes?" Jennifer considered her response carefully. "I think it happens gradually, Marcus. Success can isolate us if we're not careful. We start surrounding ourselves with people who look and think like us, and we forget that there are other ways to live, other definitions of success." As the evening progressed, Marcus found himself studying Robert Chen from across the room, trying to understand how someone could achieve such extraordinary success while maintaining such genuine humility. The man moved through conversations with ease, but there was nothing performative about his interactions. He seemed genuinely interested in every person he met, regardless of their status or position. At one point, Marcus watched Chen excuse himself from a group of venture capitalists to speak with one of the hotel's servers who was clearing nearby tables. The conversation lasted several minutes, and Marcus could see Chen listening intently to whatever the young woman was saying. When they finished talking, Chen handed her his business card with the same care he had shown to the evening's most prominent guests. "He's recruiting her," Marcus realized aloud. "What?" Jennifer followed his gaze. "That server. He's not just being polite. He's genuinely interested in her as a person, maybe as a potential employee or scholarship recipient. That's how he built 40,000 jobs. He sees potential where other people see service staff." The realization hit Marcus like a physical blow. While he had been focused on impressing people who were already successful, Chen was identifying and nurturing untapped potential in people that others overlooked entirely. It was a completely different approach to business and to life. Marcus thought about his own company, Zenith Technologies, and how he interacted with support staff, administrative assistants, and junior employees. How many opportunities had he missed because he was too focused on climbing up to notice the talent around him? How many people had he dismissed or ignored because they couldn't immediately advance his career? "I've been doing everything wrong," he said, the words coming out as barely a whisper. "Not everything," Jennifer replied with characteristic kindness. "You're good at your job, Marcus. You're intelligent and hard-working, but maybe this is an opportunity to think about what kind of success you really want. Marcus watched as Robert Chen approached their section of the ballroom, moving slowly as he was stopped every few feet by admirers and well-wishers. The man's energy seemed inexhaustible, his patience infinite. There was something almost magnetic about his presence, not the aggressive charisma that Marcus had always associated with powerful people, but something quieter and more sustainable. "Mr. Chen is coming this way," Jennifer observed. Marcus felt his heart rate accelerate. Part of him wanted to flee to avoid the confrontation with his own prejudice that Chen's presence represented. But another part of him recognized that this might be the most important moment of his professional life, not because of what Chen could do for his career, but because of what this encounter could teach him about himself. As Robert Chen drew closer, now only 2 tables away and still engaged in animated conversation with other guests, Marcus made a decision that surprised him. Instead of rehearsing the perfect introduction or calculating how to make the best impression, he simply sat quietly and prepared to listen. For the first time all evening, Marcus wasn't thinking about what he could gain from an interaction. Instead, he found himself wondering what he might learn. Robert Chen finally reached their table as the evening was winding down, though his energy remained as vibrant as it had been hours earlier. Marcus felt his mouth go dry as the man he had so carelessly dismissed approached with the same warm smile he had shown everyone throughout the night. "Good evening," Chen said, extending his hand to Jennifer first, then to Marcus. "I'm Robert Chen. I don't believe we've had the chance to meet." Marcus stood quickly, nearly knocking over his wine glass in the process. "Mr. Chen, I'm Marcus Whitfield from Zenith Technologies. This is my colleague Jennifer Chen. No relation, I assume?" Robert's face lit up with genuine delight. "Chen is quite common, but you never know. Are your parents from Taiwan by any chance?" "Actually, yes," Jennifer replied with surprise. "My grandparents immigrated from Taipei in the 1960s. What a wonderful coincidence. My family is from the same region. It's always a joy to meet someone who shares that heritage." Chen's enthusiasm was infectious, and Marcus could see why people were drawn to him. There was nothing calculated about his interest. It was purely authentic. As the conversation continued, Marcus found himself observing Chen's communication style with growing admiration. The man asked thoughtful questions, listened intently to the answers, and seemed genuinely interested in learning about their work at Zenith Technologies. There was no sense of hierarchy or condescension, despite the vast difference in their professional accomplishments. "Zenith focuses on enterprise software solutions," Marcus explained, finding his voice despite his nervousness. "We specialize in streamlining operations for mid-sized companies." "That's fascinating work," Chen replied, and Marcus could tell he meant it. "The backbone of American business runs on companies exactly like yours. You're solving real problems for real people. That's incredibly valuable." Marcus felt a flush of pride, but it was different from his usual career-focused satisfaction. Chen's validation felt meaningful precisely because it came without any agenda or expectation of reciprocal benefit. "Mr. Chen," Marcus said, taking a deep breath, "I have to ask you something. Your acceptance speech tonight was remarkable, but I'm curious about your decision to work alongside service staff. Is that really something you do regularly?" Chen's expression grew thoughtful. "Every Friday morning, without fail. I started the practice about 10 years ago when I realized I was becoming disconnected from the people who make my businesses possible. It's easy to get lost in boardrooms and executive suites, to forget that every company is built on the hard work of people at every level. But don't you find it inefficient?" Marcus asked, immediately regretting the question. "I mean, couldn't you use that time for strategic planning or high-level meetings?" Instead of taking offense, Chen smiled with understanding. "You know, Marcus, I used to think exactly the same way. I believed that my time was too valuable to spend on what I considered lower-level activities. But I discovered something remarkable when I started working alongside maintenance crews, kitchen staff, and security guards." Jennifer leaned forward, clearly intrigued. "What did you discover?" "I learned that the best business insights often come from the people closest to the actual work," Chen explained. "The night janitor who notices which offices stay lit latest might have insights about productivity patterns. The cafeteria worker who sees which departments eat lunch together might understand collaboration dynamics better than any consultant. The parking attendant who knows which employees arrive earliest and leave latest might have the best read on company culture." Marcus felt a chill of recognition. How many valuable insights had he missed because he never thought to ask the right people the right questions. But more than that, Chen continued, those Friday mornings keep me grounded. They remind me that every job has dignity, every person has value, and success means lifting others up, not looking down on them. The words hit Marcus like a revelation. He thought about his earlier behavior, his dismissive attitude, his automatic assumption that Chen's presence in maintenance clothing was somehow inappropriate. The shame was overwhelming, but with it came a profound moment of clarity. "Mr. Chen," Marcus said quietly, "I need to tell you something. Earlier tonight, before I knew who you were, I made some very unfair judgments about seeing maintenance staff working during the ceremony. I was wrong and I'm ashamed of my attitude." Chen studied Marcus for a moment, his expression kind but serious. "Marcus, thank you for your honesty. That takes courage. Can I ask what you learned from that experience?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "I learned that I've been defining people by their jobs, rather than seeing them as individuals. I've been so focused on climbing up that I forgot to look around. I think I've been missing opportunities to learn from people I dismissed as unable to help my career." "That's a profound realization," Chen said gently. "The question now is, what will you do with it?" The question hung in the air as Marcus contemplated his answer. Around them, the evening was drawing to a close. Guests were beginning to make their departures. Business cards were being tucked into jacket pockets, and the hotel staff was discreetly beginning to clear tables. "I want to change," Marcus said finally. "I want to be the kind of leader who sees potential in everyone, not just people who can immediately benefit my career. I want to build something meaningful, not just climb higher." Chen nodded approvingly. "That's an excellent foundation. But Marcus, real change requires consistent action, not just good intentions. It means having uncomfortable conversations with yourself about your biases and assumptions. It means treating every person you meet with genuine respect and curiosity." As if to demonstrate his point, Chen paused to thank one of the servers who was collecting empty glasses from their table. He learned the young man's name, asked about his studies, he was working his way through business school, and handed him a business card with an invitation to apply for Chen Enterprises' scholarship program. Marcus watched this interaction with growing understanding. This wasn't performance or calculated networking, it was simply how Chen lived his values every day. "Mr. Chen," Marcus said as they prepared to part ways, "would it be possible to stay in touch? I'd like to learn more about your approach to business and leadership." "Of course," Chen replied, offering his card. "But Marcus, the best teacher for what you want to learn isn't me. It's the people around you that you haven't been seeing. Start there." As Robert Chen walked away, still stopping to speak with hotel staff and remaining guests, Marcus felt fundamentally changed. The evening that had begun with superficial networking goals had become a masterclass in authentic leadership and human dignity. "Are you okay?" Jennifer asked as they gathered their belongings. Marcus looked around the ballroom one final time, seeing it with completely different eyes than he had when he arrived. "I think I'm better than okay," he said. "I think I'm finally ready to become the person I should have been all along." 6 months after the Beverly Hills Hotel Gala, Marcus Whitfield sat in his office at Zenith Technologies, but everything about his professional life had fundamentally changed. The corner office remained the same. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Los Angeles, sleek modern furniture, and awards lining the bookshelf, but the man who occupied it was virtually unrecognizable from the ambitious climber who had attended that fateful awards ceremony. The transformation had begun the Monday morning following his encounter with Robert Chen. Marcus had arrived at work early, but instead of heading straight to his office, he had made an unprecedented stop in the building's lobby to introduce himself to Miguel, the security guard he had walked past hundreds of times without acknowledgement. "Good morning, Miguel," Marcus had said, reading the nameplate on the man's uniform. "I'm Marcus Whitfield from the 15th floor. I realize we've never properly met, despite working in the same building for 3 years." Miguel's surprise had been evident, but his smile was warm. "Good morning, Mr. Whitfield. It's nice to finally meet you officially." That 5-minute conversation had led to Marcus learning that Miguel was a military veteran who had served 2 tours in Afghanistan, that he was studying cybersecurity at night school, and that he had insights about building security that could revolutionize Zenith's approach to protecting client data. The conversation with Miguel had been the first of many. Marcus began arriving 15 minutes early each day, using the time to connect with people he had previously overlooked. The cleaning staff who worked overnight and knew which departments were most productive, the parking attendant who understood traffic patterns that could inform flexible work schedules, the cafeteria workers who had observed collaboration dynamics across different teams. Each interaction had yielded unexpected insights, but more importantly, they had begun to rebuild Marcus's understanding of leadership and success. He discovered that Maria from the cleaning crew had an MBA from Mexico that wasn't recognized in the United States, but whose strategic thinking was sharper than most of his executive colleagues. James from maintenance had invented 3 process improvements that could save the company thousands of dollars annually, but had never been asked for his input. These discoveries had led Marcus to propose something unprecedented at Zenith, an innovation from every level initiative that solicited ideas and feedback from all employees, regardless of their position or department. The resistance from senior management had been immediate and predictable. "Marcus, we appreciate your enthusiasm," his boss, Richard Sterling, had said during the proposal meeting, "but let's be realistic about where valuable business insights come from. We have MBAs and consultants for strategic thinking." Marcus had expected this response, but Robert Chen's influence had given him the courage to persist. "Richard, what if I told you that our overnight cleaning supervisor identified a security vulnerability that our IT consultants missed? Or that our parking attendant has a solution for the productivity issues we've been struggling with in the West Wing?" The skepticism in the room had been palpable, but Marcus had data to support his claims. Over the following weeks, he had documented dozens of practical improvements suggested by non-executive staff, each with potential financial impact. The Innovation from Every Level program had been approved as a pilot project. The results had been remarkable. Within 3 months, employee suggestions had generated over $200,000 in cost savings and efficiency improvements. More importantly, workplace satisfaction had increased dramatically as employees felt heard and valued for the first time in years. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text message, interrupting his reflection. It was from Robert Chen. "Saw the article about Zenith's innovation program in Forbes. Proud of you, Marcus. Leadership is a journey, not a destination." The Forbes article had been unexpected recognition for what Marcus had come to see as simply the right way to do business. The journalist had highlighted Zenith as an example of democratic leadership and bottom-up innovation, concepts that would have been foreign to Marcus 6 months earlier. But the real measure of change wasn't external recognition, it was internal transformation. Marcus had begun volunteering with Chen Enterprises' scholarship program, helping identify deserving candidates among working students and career changers. He had discovered that his networking skills, previously used for self-advancement, were incredibly powerful when applied to helping others achieve their goals. Jennifer knocked on his office door, entering with a smile that had become increasingly frequent as she witnessed Marcus's evolution. "The team is ready for the afternoon meeting. Are you prepared to hear Maria's presentation about international expansion?" Marcus grinned. Maria Santos, formerly from the cleaning crew, was now Zenith's newest business analyst, her MBA from Mexico finally receiving the recognition it deserved after Marcus had championed her credentials with HR. Her insights about Latin American markets, gained from her family connections and cultural understanding, had opened entirely new possibilities for the company. "I wouldn't miss it," Marcus replied, closing his laptop. "Her preliminary research suggests we could increase our client base by 30% within 2 years. Sometimes the best strategic thinking comes from the most unexpected places." As they walked toward the conference room, Marcus reflected on how profoundly his definition of success had changed. 6 months ago, success had meant climbing higher, earning more, and impressing the right people. Now, success meant creating opportunities for others, building authentic relationships, and leading with humility and curiosity. The conference room buzzed with energy as team members from every department and level gathered for Maria's presentation. The scene would have been unimaginable in the old Zenith culture, where strategic discussions were limited to senior executives. Now, the company's best ideas came from collaborative sessions that included perspectives from across the organization. As Maria began her presentation, Marcus noticed Miguel from security sitting in the back row, taking notes on his tablet. The man's cybersecurity studies had progressed rapidly, and Marcus had arranged for company sponsorship of his education. Within a year, Miguel would likely transition into Zenith's IT department, bringing both technical skills and a security mindset shaped by military experience. Looking around the room at faces that had once been invisible to him, Marcus felt a profound sense of purpose that his previous career ambitions had never provided. This was what Robert Chen had meant about lifting others up while rising. Success became exponential when it was shared rather than hoarded. After the meeting, as the team dispersed with excited discussions about implementation timelines and market research priorities, Marcus lingered in the conference room. The view from the 15th floor looked the same as it always had, but he saw it differently now. Instead of looking down at the street below, he found himself looking out at the horizon, thinking about possibilities and potential rather than hierarchy and status. His journey from that humbling night at the Beverly Hills Hotel had taught him that true leadership wasn't about commanding from above, it was about serving from within. The most successful people weren't those who climbed highest, but those who brought others up with them. If Marcus's story resonates with your own experiences or aspirations, consider following our channel for more inspiring tales of transformation, leadership, and the extraordinary potential that exists within ordinary moments of choice and change.